And with new functions coming on a regular basis with Excel, it's sometimes difficult to decide which one to use. So in this video, I will just do a quick demo of the pros and cons of if, ifs, and switch. So say you have a movie list with a number rating for each movie and you want to add the description, and you also want to take into account what you would do if the rating itself is incorrect, if it's not between 1 and 4 in this case. So with if, you will need to do this function here. So nestled if, it will be quite lengthy, and you really need to concentrate on this. So this is how your function will look like. You would do if, after you would do else, and after another if, and after else. So now if you were to use ifs instead, you might be a little bit more relaxed. You can have one after the other without counting the commas and the bracket. So if the movie rating is 1, you would put great. Then if the rating movie is 2, you would put okay. So it's a little bit more logical. You can do one after the other. The final part of this function would be the true. So in other words, is for anything else than 1 to 4, you would just put unknown. For switch, that would work very well because with switch, you only take one parameter. So you evaluate everything based on the first character, which is here is D5. The first cell is D5. So you would work like this. So you would just put D5, and after you would put 1. That means if D5 is 1, then you would put great. If D5 is 2, you would put okay, etc. And then at the end, you just don't need to put another value. The final statement that you would put would just be unknown. So switch would understand that as there is no evaluation, you would just put unknown here. So this is how it would work. Now let's review quickly the pros and cons of each. Now for if, the pros, it's a backward compatibility. I mean, this is important because when you want to share your Excel or templates and you have a newer version, you have to take into account the older version might not be able to handle the function that you have. So if is quite an quote-unquote old function, so you can be sure that it was there from the start. And another advantage of if, it has flexibility. You don't need to have only one cell to compare. You can do whatever you want. The first statement can be regarding one cell, and the second statement can be regarding another cell, etc. The cons, obviously, it's hard to read, especially when you start to have too many conditions. So you need to concentrate, as I was saying, about the nest, as I call the nested ifs. You need to concentrate where to put your brackets and your commas and the like. So it can be quite cumbersome. Now, ifs, it's easier to read than if. You can forget about all the brackets and commas. It's quite consistent. So that's much easier to write and to read as well. The con, and that's going to seem as well like a strange disadvantage, but it's relatively recent. So if you do an Excel with this and you share it with someone else, for instance, you do a template, you share it with someone else, it might not work. But if you just use it on your own, I would really recommend that you use ifs instead of if for this scenario here. But what about switch? Switch is even easier to write than if and even than ifs. The reason is that you just put the cell once, and after you evaluate based on the cell that you've already mentioned. So this is for the advantage, but the downside of this is you can only evaluate obviously one cell at a time, and also you can only evaluate equal operators. Another disadvantage is, of course, that also it's relatively recent, and then you might not be able to share your spreadsheet if you are using it. So this is it for this very specific scenario where we need to check a cell with an equal. Then I think for me, switch is the winner. And that's it. So I'll be doing more of those quick overviews of new functions and comparing with the older versions.